Hello, YouTube, October 30th, 2019, and I'm here with a very interesting topic I wanted to do for some time now. So, this is going to be part one of this. So, I am going to do Marianne Williamson versus Andrew Yang. Those are my two favorite candidates thus far out of all the, conglomerate of people that we have to choose from on both the Democratic and then sadly the Republicans ain't getting no love. They had like Donald Trump is over there running unopposed. There, last time I checked, there was two people running against Donald Trump. Like they don't even get they don't get a debate stage. Donald Trump don't gets to sit up with them, and you know, I find that's rather effed up in my opinion. First Donald Trump's hijacking the Benedict College over there. It was supposed to be a formal, questioning, Q&A. He done turned it into an official White House event. Now you got two Republicans running against them, and they don't even get to have their voice heard on no stage. So it's just messed up all the way around from them. But needless to say, we're here to talk about two of the most biggest talking points from Andrew Yang and Marianne Williamson. Now, I might do another video comparing their Yeah, I will. I'm going to do another video comparing both of their policies in general, but this video I'm going to compare their strongest policies against each other. What we know, know both of them for. So of course we know Andrew Yang. He's most notably known for the universal basic income, giving every American who is over the age of 18 $1,000 a month. And I told y'all the pros and cons of that. I'm going to reiterate that specifically in this video because I remember when I went over UBI, it was in one of the mini series that I did on Andrew Yang. And granted, it is timestamped. No, matter of fact, I did a whole dedicated video on UBI, and I would leave that down in the description box below. But we're going to reiterate a little bit of that. But if you want more details, check out the video that I did. But we also going to compare reparations and which one actually is more beneficial for black people. Now, morally, let me just say this, morally, it's non-comparable. That reparations is definitely owed to black people. I done told y'all time and time again to the point where I've came out with a whole dedicated video for reparations. I came out with multiple videos talking about reparations. And it needs to be in the form of economic restitution in addition to cash. I don't know why people keep saying either or. So just to put that out there for me. But Marianne Williamson has been the main component of proposing reparations for black people who descends from American chastised slavery. In addition, she has proposed, a council of black prestige Americans who are well, established on the subject, to come around and go about, disbursement of said reparations. And we're going to mention about the pros and cons of that. In addition, she's also been a component of Native American reparations as well, which includes giving the Black Hills back to the Sioux Indian tribe. Something I don't even think Elizabeth Warren ironically hasn't even proposed. And she supposed to be, her sister still over there claiming darn on a native status, but the irony that darn on Marianne done came out with it before you. But we ain't gonna pick on Elizabeth today, y'all. She gets it enough over there on the right, so we ain't gonna kick somebody who's already. Although Elizabeth, honey, she's still up in there now. Now she's a good contender for third for me overall. Now outside the Native American crap, she's fairly all right as well. She has her moments, but let's compare with Marianne Williamson. So Marianne Williamson, the pros, obviously. Finally paying out the reparations that extends far beyond slavery, Jim Crow. It needs to include redlining. It needs to include, police brutality and bring it to the day to justify paying out modern day black people, because it's not just for the descendant of slaves. It also should be for black Americans who are suffering today. And the reason why you make that distinction is because the differences with West Africans and Africans who also suffer from discrimination here in America, they still have the option to go back home. They can go back to the continent. They know how to speak their native tongues, their native languages. They can go back to the islands. They got their patois. They got their laws over there. They represent the majority of the people in the areas of which they come from, such as Jamaica, Barbados, Nigeria, Ghana, Ethiopia. But we can't go nowhere. We're actually born here. Some of us can trace our lineage back to the 17th centuries. So it's like we can't go over to Nigeria and say we home, or go over to the Congo and say we home, go to the islands and say we home. So that's the main differences with us. Also, like I said, the debt is owed. It's hypocritical that they keep going around the Mayberry bush about trying to pay it out. You done paid everybody else out. You have even been as archilistic enough to pay reparations towards Jewish people. And Bernie Sanders hypocritically, and this is one thing that irritates me with Marianne Williamson. I want her to stop darn Brown, and this is the flaw with Marianne Williamson, and this is what gets her in trouble. You proposing reparations, but at the same time, you brown nosing a little bit too much towards Bernie Sanders, who has been the main person saying that the reparations is divisive. But you is not strong enough to go up against him and say, well, it wasn't darn divisive when you sign off on reparations for Jewish Americans for the Holocaust that happened on behalf of them by way of the Jews that happened 70-some years ago. Because the thing is with black people, we keep hearing time and time and time again, oh, well, slavery was so long ago. Wasn't none of y'all alive. My people didn't own slaves. I didn't benefit from slavery. And then when we include civil rights, which was just 50 years ago, some of y'all was, hell, most of y'all was in darn Congress still advocating for darn busing of, separation of schools and shit, i.e. Joe Biden. What we have to say about that? But darn Marianne Williamson don't never call out these hypocrisies. She don't call out none of that about the fact that Bernie Sanders particularly signed up for reparations for Jewish people in 2015 during the Obama administration. And before people say, well, Obama was the one that proposed, but that does not mean that Mr. Bernie Sanders had to go along with to get along. But he darn took them reparations exclusively for his people. And while y'all want to deflect and say, well, Obama was the one that proposed it, why y'all ain't getting on y'all fellow black people? Once again, here comes the separation of African versus black. His blackness is not a black American. His black is, what is Obama? I think his father is Nigerian. No, Kenyan. He's a Kenyan and white. His American is white. That's where people keep failing to realize with Obama. Obama can't relate to reparations at all because he does not have any slave descendant ancestry. But Obama does not have any slavery blood in him at all. He's not an islander. He's not an American as far as a black American. He is specifically directly from the continent. His black DNA comes from a Kenyan darn man who was born and raised on the continent. And yes, Obama was born here, but that does not make you an American as far as being a descendant. That's where people get confused. And that's why I said that there should be an exemption to who can claim who's black American. Because people think anybody who's black and born in America is a black American. It's like, no. You actually have to trace your lineage several generations back to the Americas. You can't literally be a first generation and you can trace your parent all the way to the continent of Africa and still claim that you are American and you do not have any mixture. Your mixture was due to a consensual union between a white mother and a Kenyan father. But I have not heard Marianne Williamson break it down like that. So that's the first strike against her on that. The second strike is she brown nosing the Bernie Sanders too much. She don't call out the hypocrisy about him signing off for additional reparations in 2015 to Jews. But he constantly talks about paying the black people exclusively is divisive. She don't call out the fact that Bernie Sanders have been caught removing people from his rallies for kindly bringing up reparations. And I ain't talking about the hecklers who have threatened him or have yelled at him profusely. I'm talking about the ones who are speaking calmly, that know how to articulate themselves, who wasn't disrespectful when they asked the question. They was very calm and serene when they asked Bernie Sanders about reparations, and he kindly snapped his hands and got them on about the door. Those are the ones that I'm talking about. Marianne Williamson, you keep pussyfooting around that. Another thing that is a disadvantage when it comes to this reparations is the time frame. 20 years and the amount. So we're talking about $500 billion over the course of 20 years. So that's the stipulation. So $500 billion over the course of 20 years, that equals $25 million. Let me turn my screen down a little bit. That's $25 million per year. I think I got that correct. Or is that 25? Oh, my bad, y'all. 500 billion. 100,000 million divided by 20 years. So that's $25 billion per year. But here's the catch-22 to that. She has put in a stipulation where most of that is going to economic resources. And this is where she gets caught up in, like, okay, now Marianne, now you somewhat, you just put yourself a step above Kamala Harris now. Now, Kamala Harris was talking about rewarding everybody who makes less than $100,000, which was an insult to black people who make above that. So you saying, okay, the black people who make above $100,000 shouldn't be compensated in any sort of way? And you implying that everybody who's black is just below this $100,000 line? Like, that was a darn backhanded compliment, wasn't it? But Marianne Williamson, now here you go, proposing that all the money should be towards economic restitution. Now, I thought you was talking about for cash. Now, what separated you for the longest was you was also for the cash disbursement of it. But now, when I look at your profile, because don't think because I do my videos on y'all that I do not go back and double check to see if there haven't been updates. I keep myself updated on y'all policies. And I see that you have reworded some things. And I'm not looking too favorable at it. Now, I'm going to need some answers, Marianne Williamson. Because now it's like, it's been confined where the way you're expressing it on your site, that the money is going to be dispersed over the course of 20 years, which I think is too long in itself. It's like we can at least get that down to 10. But then you don't leave no option for the disbursement to be in cash payouts. And then the thing is, what would be the percentage of the cash payouts out of 500 billion? And that's why, once again, I said 500 billion is way too small of a number. Because even if we talk about half of it would be cash payouts, that's 250 billion, right? But here we go again. Who is now black? Because I done told y'all about in America, if you are biracial and you have a child who is half black and half white, that child is going to be automatically be put down as black on the birth certificate. Even though the baby can be more white than they are black, they will still put the baby down as black. Now, here's where the problem comes in. Now, when that biracial has a baby, in some cases, the darn baby is still considered black because the biracial person is considered black on their ID. And then the person ain't going to look at it like, okay, well, this black person is biracial and you got with this white person or this Asian person, so the baby is mostly other and it's not dominantly black or 50-50 black anymore. No, this is how the doctors darn mess things up, because now the biracial person is just seen as black, like me, even though I'm fully black. which, in America means you're over 70% African. Obviously, I'm not 100% African. But now the biracial has a baby, and because the biracial is seen as black, and the other parent is seen as white, now the baby is still also black, even though now the baby has been diluted down to 20% African ancestry. See, that's the problem. Now you got people with 20% African ancestry because the biracial parent is deemed full black, and now legally this child is deemed black. All of them are getting reparations because you have not proposed any type of DNA clause. And this is why I said a DNA clause is definitely important. Now, do I think biracials definitely need to be included? Yes. Do I think even their offspring should be included? Yes. However, there should be a clear difference in the payout amounts, which is why I came out with my reparations plan that breaks down what the biracials should get and what the offspring of their biracials should get. Anybody below that, there's unless that child mixes in with black, it's like now the other person is cut off. Like if you mix with white again, you're not cut off. There has to be a darn on cutoff point. And we cannot keep allowing the doctors to be labeling people who is 20-25% African as black. Because now when it comes to the reparation payout, you want to pay us all the same, as if we all are looked at in the same, as if we do not have a colorism hierarchy in this darn country that favors somebody a little bit more lighter. And then when you have somebody who is white altogether with just, 20-25%, African ancestry, they don't have to face anything at all to a certain extent until, their parents are in their immediate presence or whatever. So that's why I said those people should get 10%, biracials 30%, and full black people who is tested over 60% African, they should get 60% of the reparational payout pool. Now, once again, what is going to be that amount? Because if we're only talking about $250 billion, then, and if you are viewing us all equally, which means it's going to be like 50-some million people, because I would say there's at least 10+ million people in America who is white that can say that they got 20% African ancestry. So if we're now including them because legally they now deemed as black because they have a biracial parent, and that biracial parent was deemed black. And once again, the hospitals do this shit every time. You have a black parent, you have a white parent, they automatically put the baby as darn on black. They don't want to hear nothing about you putting the baby down as white, even though genetically the baby is white. We need to fix that darn corruption within our darn hospitals. But let's darn divide this darn $250 billion up amongst 50 million people. So all of us is going to be sharing $5,000. $5,000. So that's essentially equivalent to 1 year of taxes for everybody, or some cases that just breaks you off. Even if you owe, if you make more than $50,000, you that will probably break you off even as far as your back taxes. People who make less than that, you might get a happy tax return for 1 year. That's it. So that's the problematics with Marianne Williamson with the reparations. Number one, the amount is far too low. Number two, she is implying that all the reparations should be exclusively now towards economical development, as opposed to having a cash payout, which is something that no other race had to compromise on. Native Americans didn't have to compromise just on economics. Jewish people didn't have to compromise on economics. But once again, when it comes to black people, we're being forced to just compromise on one or the other. You have black people just wanting the cash, and then you have them just wanting to give us, control economics, because even within the economic disbursement, they ain't going into specifics like I am to guarantee that the economics really go to us. Because I'm trying to figure out who would be this darn on prestige group of people. Because I want her to expand more on who's qualified. Because we done seen some of our darn coalition people can't be trusted. So just because it seemed like they've talked about the shit for all the years don't necessarily mean that they're qualified. Just because they call themselves being part of the NAACP don't mean that they're qualified, because we got to realize that some of them actually denied the reparations in the first place. So what does it look like now you leaving the disbursement amongst them? So I'm trying to figure out what would be this darn qualification process of who gets to be selected to be in the group to even take part in dispersing the said amount of reparations. That she really wants to be just exclusively towards educational and economic redevelopment, as opposed to also paying out cash. So Marianne Williamson, you really upset me on that. It made me almost not want to vote for you, but fortunately you got a lot of other actual good things about you that makes me still hold out hope for you, which I will bring up in part 2. Now that we got Marianne Williamson out the way, like I said, she also, for the Native Americans, she is looking to restore the Black Hills to the Sioux tribe as well. In addition to, I think she also went as far as to say to get rid of eminent domain. Don't quote me on that, but I do recall her talking about Native Americans getting more control of their land, which by way of, taking on the eminent domain and forcing them not to be able to outright take the land unless it's truly for a dire emergency. Like if you are in a tsunami based area, or if you are somewhere where your people could be in more danger, like a volcano or some shit like that, then of course they can come take you on out. But other than that, just to put a pipeline and stuff there, Marianne Williamson wanted to get rid of all that corrupt shit. So she has been looking out for the Native American people as well. Now, Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang wants to give $1,000 a month to everybody who's over the age of 18. And I broke down that would cost roughly $3 trillion a year. But I haven't heard him propose how that will be paid for per se. Because yeah, you can say it will re-trickle down into the economy over time, but that's a huge gamble. That's a very huge gamble to talk about. Because from what he's actually said out his own mouth, it will create $700 billion in job growth. But that still leaves a net loss of, $2.3 billion. I mean, $2.3 trillion. Not billion, but $2.3 trillion a year. Now, I'm trying to figure out, depending on how much of this money is recirculated in, does that take down that $2.3 trillion to the point where it now is seen as a profit? That's what I'm wondering about that. He also said it would encourage entrepreneurs. Yeah, that would definitely be good for us. 15% of the population that actually have the entrepreneur mindset. But then we also have to realize that there are still factors of, when it comes to people like myself and people like him, there's still some racism implied. There's still classism implied. We still got to deal with it. But then again, his policies on taking down Amazon and all of them have worked in line where it will help, smaller businesses by default. So I'm actually looking favorable on this. So if he can get to explaining more about how he can fund this universal basic income where it doesn't put the economy perpetually more in debt, but if he's able to eventually show how it would actually turn a profit, I would actually be here more for that. Now, once again, morally, reparations in general is still owed to Black people. But in the way that Marianne Williamson is currently proposing it, if I had to be honest and say which one would be more economically beneficial to black people, Andrew Yang, if he finds a way to say how universal basic income is able to turn a profit and not put the economy in debt, I would actually be more inclined to go with Andrew Yang than Marianne Williamson, because we done broke down the numbers, and reparations will be a one-time payout of $5,000 for all black people, biracial people, and people who have 20 to 25% African ancestry. Versus we could get $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year, and then that's every year their own with no caps. Versus reparations is a certain time frame. And then, and that's another thing. You want to disperse, like, now I'm thinking about the cash reparations. Would that also be dispersed over a course of 20 years? Because now I ain't even think about it like that. I was just thinking about the $5,000 was going to be dispersed all in one whop. And this is what makes it even more worse for Marianne Williamson. This is only if reparations is dispersed in one whop, all of us would get $5,000. But if the reparations, the cash payout is also paid out over 20 years, then that means we're getting only a mere $250 a year. So that is 1/4 of what Andrew Yang is proposing to give us in a month. So once again, let me break those numbers down. If 50 million people who can claim that they're black, or at least 20%, all get reparations that is equal amount, that's $5,000. But if that $5,000 is split over a course of 20 years, that's only a mere $250 that each black person receives per year. That's a year, not a month. Now, Andrew Yang is proposing $1,000 a month for everybody. So we will get 4 times the amount per month. We will get the 4 times the amount of what Marianne Williamson is trying to pay us. And that's only due to me proposing that half of what she's offering, it would go to cash. She really wants all of it to go towards the economic and educational redevelopment. But even if half of the money is cash, we will only get $250. But Andrew Yang, we would get $8,000 a month versus $250 a year with Marianne Williamson. $250 a year under Marianne Williamson if half of the $500 billion is paid out in cash. Under the current system that is set up, that everybody's getting paid out equally, as opposed to full blacks getting paid more than biracials and people who are, only a quarter black or a little bit less. We would all be getting $250. Hell, that might well just be a minor deduction off the taxes. That's just a minor deduction off of taxes. That really don't help us out in the loans thing. That would keep us darn on stagnant, really. $250. Hell, that's a light bill. A light bill for the month. That's a car payment. But Andrew Yang, $1,000, hell, that's somebody, that's a light bill, the car bill, that's something to go out to eat with. Or for somebody like me, honey, that's some advertisement money. I can stock up on products. $1,000 a month, I can pay my whole month worth of darn booth rental. I can go and get me a salon suite, and the darn $1,000 a month can pay for all of that within itself. And I got $200 left over, which will pay for my gas to get there. So you can actually do a lot more on the business side with Andrew Yang versus with Marianne Williamson. Just in general, $1,000 a month, that would help out homelessness. That would get people out of homelessness. You can get affordable housing. and get yourself situated, and then build yourself up with a job, and then you will still get the $1,000 regardless of your job status. So that $1,000 will help you, in addition to when you finally get a job, you can add on to that income. So it's so much more beneficial things you can do with the universal basic income versus the reparations that Marianne Williamson is proposing. Because now, once again, if she would have did it my way and do it in my video, then I would be more inclined to say reparations. Because now if we do it my reparations way, where we break it down to about 60% DNA, 30 biracials, I think I said is between 40 and 59%, and then quadroons, which are like 25 to 39%. Black Americans, I say we represent maybe like 18 million people. And if we raise the reparations rate to $6 trillion, in which $1 trillion is paid out in cash reparations, let me break down the numbers real quick. 60% paid out towards full black. So $600 billion divided by roughly 18 million people. Now, this is just an eyeball guess. I don't know really how much of us is considered full black, which is why I said we need the DNA test, because the way that the American government has it on the census, a biracial person can be, full black. Somebody such as Robin off of not Married to Medicine, but the Real Housewives of Potomac, she's 38% African, but she can claim that she's full black. That's why I said there needs to be separations. But if we separate the full blacks who are 60% plus, I would say it's roughly 18.5 million of us. So just 18.5 million. I done did something wrong. 600 million, 6 billion, 60 billion, 600 billion divided by 18.5 million. That's $32,000 that we would get paid out. Now, of course, over time, Andrew Yang's UBI would still be more beneficial, because we can see $60,000 within 5 years. But $32,000 up front, honey, we can actually darn gonna build some things up. Like, if we was to get that all in one whop, instead of just keeping us perpetually, okay, we can build ourselves up a little bit. Because with Andrew Yang, $1,000 is enough to get the ball rolling a little bit. But with reparations to the tune of $32,000 per person, all in one whop, we can actually get the ball rolling a lot quicker. So even though it's less money over the course of years, that one-time lump sum payout would be more beneficial to us, because that's enough where we can get immediate businesses and stuff off the ground. We can pay off some stuff, pay off your car in full and all of that, and immediately drive the economy back up. And you immediately see a return, and because reparations would actually immediately stimulate the economy. Because once again, black people, we spend $1.2 trillion annually as the most oppressed people in America. Imagine what we can spend if you give us an economic boom to the tune of $32,000, where we can actually build ourselves up and darn gonna get our businesses off the ground, and then spend even more money hiring people to darn gonna get our shops and stuff set up. The stores, and because some people ain't entrepreneur mindset, and not everybody should be, and we shouldn't be dictating who get to do what with their money. So the ones who going to spend the money frivolously, they're still putting it into the economy, where they go to the stores. And this is why I say we need economic development, because if we had the economics in place, which is why I say $6 trillion, $5 trillion will make it so we will have our black nail shops, our black banks, our black schools. So when the black people who are going to spend the money frivolously, they will have options to spend the money frivolously within black businesses, thus they're going to perpetually keeping the ball rolling, not only to build up the economics of the United States, but also so we as black people can see the doggone fruits of our labor. But right now, if you just go and spend the money at Walmart or at Target, Kohl's, Forever 21, you go and get that Forever, that going out of business sale. I done read that they going out of business. You done stock up all on that, but you don't go to the black-owned darn creators such as Angel Brinks. Well, I take that back. Angel Brinks ain't black. She's Latina. She's a white Latina. I take that back. But who's black? Like Tina knows, she still got her collection out. Kamora Lee Simmons, she's half black and she's coming out with baby fat again. Like, at least come and give something to darn on black businesses. And then we can find some modern day black. Darn, I can't think of no black, full black designer off the top of my head. But at least give some options. I'm not saying that you can't go to the white stores, but can we put the money also back in the black community as well? Can you store your money in a black bank? And by default, the loans, we will have a higher chance of getting the loans and businesses, grants and stuff afforded to us, black entrepreneurs. Because we won't have to worry about the discrimination of, oh, your name sounds too ethnic, oh, you live in this neighborhood, it might be a higher chance we might not get our money back fast from you. We don't have to deal with all that bullshit. If we are to get our immediate reparation payouts, and in the economic portion of it, $5 trillion is redistributed into black banks and also given into the form of grants and loans to fund up black businesses and black schools, etc., while also paying out $1 trillion in reparations. And America definitely has the money for it because, once again, Andrew Yang's UBI bill is $3 trillion a year perpetually versus reparations is $6 trillion under my proposal, just a one time. And even then, the $5 trillion, once again, is split over a course of 10 years. And then the $1 trillion is paid out all in one whop. So the first year, you will pay out $1.5 trillion, and then every year after, until 10 years has passed, you will pay out just $0.5 trillion, which is a lot more affordable than coming out and paying $3 trillion perpetually for universal basic income. And then you will see us grow overall. So from the black perspective, I will be for my reparations plan first. That will be the most beneficial to help black people about the ground. Now, in general, just looking at it, Marianne Williamson, the way she currently has it set up, and the way Andrew Yang has it set up, if they both tweak theirs, I'm actually still more inclined to be on the side of Andrew Yang. Because once again, I can do a lot more with $1,000 per month versus, $250 a year. Because hell, even if she was to give all of us, even if she was to give the entire $500 billion to be paid out in cash only. So let's entertain the people who just want cash reparations only. Under Marianne Williamson, if she was to pay out $500 billion to all 50 million of us, that only equates to just $500. I want to say, hold on, let me get my calculator back out again. Hold on. Let me make sure I got that correct. So $500 billion, 5 billion divided by 50 million people. $500 billion. Okay, divided by 50 million. Oh, wait a minute. That's $10,000. But that's only, no, here's the catch 22. Because I forgot it's over a course of 20 years. See, this is what fucks darn on Marianne Williamson up. Because I was like, wait a minute, how we get $10,000? Okay, now we got to divide it by 20 years. So, okay, I was right. That's $500. So even if the entire $500 billion, and y'all just see me calculate this up in real time, even if she gives us the entire $500 billion in cash, that will only equate to $500. $500 versus universal basic income. We get twice as much of that in a month than what Marianne Williamson is proposing that we get in a year. Over the course of 20 years, we're going to get a $500 discount for the next 20 years. Versus we can get $1,000 per month, perpetually, until the day we die. I'm a lot more for Andrew Yang on that versus Marianne Williamson. I'm sorry, it is what it is. The only thing saving you, Marianne Williamson, is the fact you got so much other good things going for you, such as tackling down the FDA, the pharmaceutical industry. I'm definitely here for you on that. You got a plethora of stuff that a lot of people are not even primitive to, which is, I mean, it's sad that they don't mention the stuff that she has on her platform, which is so, I mean, no other candidate is speaking the way she is. But just off of your main argument of reparations, I would have to be Team Andrew Yang. I definitely will. Andrew Yang wins it for me. But I'd love to know y'all thoughts. What team is y'all on? Are y'all part? Now, I definitely know a lot of y'all Yang gang, but is there some Marianne Williamson fans in the house? And after me breaking down, you know, the flaws, the pros and the cons of both, which one you think is better? Do you still think Marianne Williamson's reparations is better, even though it will only pay us out $500 if she was to give it all to us over the course of 20 years? Now, the only thing I can see would it be somewhat beneficial is if it's given to us all in one whop. That's $10,000 a piece. But if it's 20 years, that is $500. Versus, once again, universal basic income is $1,000 per month. I'm team universal basic income when it comes to the way it's set up right now. So y'all leave y'all thoughts down below on that. Feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will see y'all soon with more videos. Mwah.